Disclaimer: this video is intended for entertainment purposes only. Please note, some names have been changed to protect the privacy of the individuals involved in the story. In the darkest corners of mathematical theory, beyond the reach of mainstream science, there exists an algorithm so powerful that governments have tried to suppress it. An algorithm that has, according to multiple sources, successfully predicted some of history's most unpredictable events. What if I told you that the chaos of our world, stock market crashes, political upheavals, natural disasters, might not be as random as we've been led to believe? That somewhere, hidden beneath layers of complexity, patterns exist that can reveal the future before it happens. Welcome to the story of the Cassandra Algorithm, named after the Greek priestess cursed to predict the future while never being believed. Unlike its namesake, however, this algorithm's predictions have become increasingly difficult to ignore. Today, we're diving into the 5 major world events this controversial system predicted with stunning accuracy. Before we explore what the algorithm predicted, we need to understand where it came from. In 2007, a team of researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology began developing what they called a complexity mapping system, designed to identify cascading failures in financial networks. The project, initially funded as part of disaster prevention research, was led by Dr. Eleanor Chen, a computational mathematician whose previous work on pattern recognition had already earned her significant respect within academic circles. But what started as a tool for financial risk assessment evolved into something much more profound. Dr. Chen's team incorporated data points from seemingly unrelated domains: social media sentiment analysis, atmospheric measurements, population movement patterns, and thousands of economic indicators most people have never heard of. The breakthrough came when they abandoned traditional forecasting methods that relied on historical precedent. Instead, they developed a system that could identify what complexity theorists call critical instability points, moments when systems become so delicately balanced that tiny perturbations can trigger massive changes. By 2011, the algorithm had evolved into something its creators hadn't anticipated: a system capable of identifying emerging global events before they happened. That's when things got complicated. Dr. Chen's research suddenly lost its funding. Academic papers about the algorithm were mysteriously withdrawn from journals. Team members dispersed to different institutions. The official statement cited methodological concerns, but rumors suggested something else entirely: that the predictions had become too accurate for comfort. What the team didn't know was that one of their junior researchers, a computer scientist named Marcus Wong, had continued running the algorithm on private servers, documenting its predictions meticulously over the following years. Wong wasn't trying to profit from the algorithm's insights. He was testing a hypothesis: that certain world events aren't as unpredictable as we think. They're the natural emergent properties of complex systems, reaching critical thresholds. It wasn't until 2019 that Wong shared his findings with a small circle of academic colleagues. The evidence was compelling enough that it couldn't be ignored. Let's examine the 5 major events the algorithm predicted with uncanny accuracy. Prediction number 1: the Arab Spring. The algorithm flagged what it called an imminent cascade event across North Africa and the Middle East, with particular emphasis on Tunisia, Egypt, and Libya. What made this prediction remarkable wasn't just that it anticipated political unrest. It's that it did so before Mohamed Bouazizi's self-immolation in Tunisia, the event widely credited with sparking the Arab Spring. The algorithm detected the preconditions for revolution: rising food prices, youth unemployment, social media penetration reaching critical thresholds, and declining trust in institutions. According to Wong's documentation, the algorithm assigned an 82% probability of a contagious political instability event in the region within a 60-day window. On December 17, 2010, just 43 days after this prediction, Bouazizi set himself on fire in protest of police corruption and ill treatment. What followed was exactly what the algorithm had predicted: a cascading series of protests and revolutions that fundamentally altered the political landscape of the entire region. Number 2. Brexit prediction. The second major prediction came in early 2016, months before the Brexit referendum that shocked the world. While polling consistently showed Remain with a comfortable lead, and betting markets gave Brexit less than a 30% chance, the Cassandra algorithm saw something different. It assigned a 68% probability to Britain voting to leave the European Union. What did the algorithm see that experts missed? First, it detected unusual patterns in social media engagement. Content expressing anti-EU sentiment was receiving disproportionately high emotional engagement compared to pro-EU content, particularly in areas outside London that traditional polling undersampled. Second, it identified what network theorists call preference falsification, a phenomenon where people publicly express opinions different from their private beliefs. By analyzing anonymous search data and comparing it to public statements, the algorithm detected significant hidden support for the Leave campaign. Third, and perhaps most importantly, it recognized how specific economic anxieties were clustering geographically in ways that would maximize their electoral impact under Britain's voting system. When the results came in on June 23, 2016, financial markets plummeted in shock. The British pound experienced its largest one-day drop in history. Experts scrambled to explain how they had gotten it so wrong. But in a server farm somewhere, an algorithm had seen it coming 4 months earlier. What's particularly fascinating is that the algorithm didn't just predict the outcome. It also anticipated the approximate margin of victory within 2 percentage points. This level of precision suggests it wasn't just identifying the possibility of Brexit, but quantifying the exact forces driving it. One question naturally arises: if this technology existed, why didn't financial institutions or governments use it? The answer may lie in what psychologists call expertise blindness. When specialists become so committed to established methods that they dismiss novel approaches, especially those suggesting their expertise might be flawed. Prediction. Number 3. The COVID-19 pandemic. Perhaps the most sobering prediction in Wong's records came in November 2019. The algorithm identified what it categorized as a high-probability imminent global health network disruption originating from East Asia. Let me be absolutely clear. The algorithm didn't specifically identify a coronavirus. It couldn't name COVID-19 before doctors did. What it detected instead were patterns consistent with the early stages of an outbreak with pandemic potential. These patterns included unusual fluctuations in medication purchases in specific Chinese regions, atypical search trends related to respiratory symptoms, and subtle changes in hospital admission patterns that had gone unnoticed by human analysts. On December 1, 2019, just 24 days after this prediction, the first documented case of COVID-19 was recorded in Wuhan, China. By January 2020, when most global health organizations were still assessing whether human-to-human transmission was occurring, the algorithm had already projected global spread patterns with disturbing accuracy. It identified Europe and the eastern United States as particularly vulnerable to early severe outbreaks based on travel patterns, population density, and social contact structures. Dr. Melissa Jimenez, an epidemiologist who reviewed the algorithm's predictions in 2021, noted, "What's remarkable isn't just that it anticipated a pandemic. It's that it correctly identified the transmission corridors and approximate timeline of global spread before most health authorities had even acknowledged the threat." The algorithm also predicted something else that proved tragically accurate: that countries would respond independently rather than coordinately, significantly reducing the effectiveness of containment measures. Prediction. Number 4. The 2020 stock market crash. In January 2020, while global markets were still hitting all-time highs and economic forecasters remained largely optimistic, the Cassandra algorithm identified what it termed imminent multi-market discontinuity, essentially a financial cliff edge. What's crucial to understand is that this prediction came before COVID-19 had been declared a global emergency. The algorithm wasn't simply extrapolating from pandemic news. It was detecting underlying fragilities in the financial system that would magnify the pandemic's economic impact. Specifically, it flagged unsustainable debt levels, overextended corporate borrowing, and dangerous interconnections between seemingly unrelated market sectors. The algorithm assigned an 89% probability to a market correction of greater than 30% within a 60-day window. On February 20th, 2020, global markets began what would become the fastest 30% decline in history. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell from 29,551 to 18,591 in just over a month, a shocking 37% plunge that triggered circuit breakers multiple times. What makes this prediction particularly noteworthy is that it identified not just the crash itself, but the specific sectors most vulnerable to collapse. The algorithm flagged transportation, hospitality, and energy as highest risk, precisely the sectors that experienced the most severe initial impacts. Number 5. Energy crisis of 2021 to 2022. The fifth major prediction demonstrated the algorithm's ability to anticipate complex system failures across global supply networks. In April 2021, when energy markets were relatively stable and most analysts were focused on post-pandemic recovery, the algorithm identified what it called critical supply chain compression in global energy markets. It predicted a multi-factor energy crisis affecting Europe most severely, with natural gas prices specifically projected to increase by at least 400% from current levels within 18 months. At the time, this prediction seemed absurd. Europe's natural gas storage was at normal levels, and while prices had risen somewhat from pandemic lows, nothing suggested an imminent crisis. The algorithm assigned a 74% probability to a severe energy price dislocation, beginning in late 2021 and peaking in early 2022. What happened next is now economic history. By December 2021, European natural gas prices had risen by over 450%. Countries including Spain, Italy, and Greece implemented emergency measures to shield consumers. Factories across Europe cut production or shut down entirely due to unsustainable energy costs. 5 major global events, each predicted with specific characteristics, timeframes, and intensities, all documented before they occurred. Perhaps the most valuable insight from this story isn't about prediction at all, but about perception. The algorithm doesn't have a crystal ball. It simply processes existing data in ways that transcend traditional analytical boundaries. It sees connections that our specialized, siloed institutions miss. In a world of increasing complexity, perhaps we need such tools not to tell us the future, but to help us better understand the present. As for Marcus Wong and the Cassandra algorithm, they continue their quiet work, documenting predictions and refining methods, waiting for the day when we might learn to listen to mathematical prophets before their predictions come true. After all, the original Cassandra's curse wasn't that she could see the future. It was that no one would believe her until it was too late. The question for us is simple but profound. What futures are we choosing not to see? If you found this exploration of predictive systems fascinating, subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden forces shaping our world.